Yes, people, we back. Welcome to What Does Your Mum Think? Stories from the heart that make mums proud. Back with another banger, and today I've got a special episode for your head tops. I've got the gang from the Pentawards joining me. I'm chatting with Adam Ryan, Chloe Templeman, and John Glasgow, and we're going to get into what it takes to create award-winning work and everything around that too. You know, Pentawards have been going for 20 years now. This is the 20th year. So I wanted to understand what it takes to get there with these awards. Do you know what I'm saying? And yeah, we speak about everything, you know, behind the awards and stuff. There's a lot more things that go on. There's controversies with awards. We get into the discussion around diverse representation within the award settings and what Pentawards are doing about that. And yeah, this was a great conversation. I enjoyed understanding the ins and outs of what they see from a judge's perspective and each of the backgrounds for John, Chloe and Adam and how they've all ended up at the Pentawards and driving the Pentawards forward. So yeah, 20 years deep, award season, run it up. Let me know what you think. Your entries in if you are entering Rapido time. And there's also some nice little tips and tricks in there for you if you are entering next week to have the best chance of winning. Do you know what I'm saying? Run it up, people. Enjoy. Adam Ryan, Chloe Templeman, John Glasgow, welcome to What Does Your Mum Think? How are you feeling, gang?
Good.
Oh, listen, I need some sound effects, you know. I need like a soundboard that Charlie Sloth used to have at One Extra. Right, sick. So I'm super excited to chop it up today. I want to get to know each of you a little bit better, even though I know a little bit about you all. But yeah, specifically more about your backgrounds, behind the design stuff and the awards and how you all got involved with Pentawards more specifically. Pentawards also this year is celebrating 20 years. Let's go, 20 years deep. 2 decades of recognising some of the best packaging design on the planet. But again, behind every award, every entry and every judging room, there's people with their own journeys into this thing. Do you know what I'm saying? So today, again, I'm sitting down with the 3 people helping shape the stories. Before I get into it, I want to hit everyone with a fact about Pentawards and why it's called Pentawards. It was founded by Jean-Jacques Evrard, and he originally launched the competition in 2007 because there was no global award dedicated solely to packaging design. And the name Pentawards comes from the Pentagon symbol, obviously, chosen for 5 reasons. The shape of Brussels, the historic city centre, the ancient symbol of beauty, the pentagram, the 5 fingers of the human hand, 5 human senses, and 5 award levels, bronze to diamond. So you have your bronze, your silver, your gold, your platinum, and again, diamond, top prize, the bougie prize. So if you didn't know, now you know. Right, sick.
You got there.
Come on, amazing. Right, so sick. So Adam, broski, I'm gonna kick it off with you first. The man steering the Pentawards platform. Quickly, in a nutshell, so to say, where you from and what do you do?
Thank you so much. My name's Adam Ryan. I'm head of Pentawards, and I basically just get to play with packaging, to look at it every day, to create like this packaging Bible, or some say packaging porn. But I absolutely made it by sheer chance to work at the Pentawards because I'm just a boy from East London who actually studied graphic design, but I then left it to go and pursue other things, and it was a happy kind of way of getting included with the Pentawards years later, where I was actually working at Easy Fairs as a temp. And then I got to meet the owners and they said we just acquired a business called Pentawards, which I never knew even existed.
Nice. So that was your intro. Yeah. So talk to me more about that. Before the Pentawards came about, like what was you doing?
Yeah, so I pretty much left university and started my own business doing a men's clothing line called Only One Only You, because I'm a twin and twins all dress the same and I didn't want to. And then I basically was always doing jobs where I was having things as a side hustle. So I was working in sports shops, I was working doing retail, and then I launched a clothing label which then got featured on a TV show called The Only Way is Essex. And from that, I created something called Essex Fashion Week, which was all about bringing the Essex community together to fly the flag. And from that, I then got more jobs in terms of doing consulting for building brands with a jewellery business called Trésor Paris, and then working with the F2 freestylers doing their clothing label. And then, ended up at Pentawards, where I've now been for 9 years.
Wow. Listen, I'm expecting a fire merch range to come out of Pentawards then. In it?
I'm involved. I'll design it.
Oh, listen.
Yeah.
Love it. So after seeing thousands of entries then over the years, what do you feel like the biggest mistake designers have when they're entering the Pentawards?
Yeah, I think people just don't make it concise in the elevator pitch. So just being able to say what the entry is in one sentence is really important, because again, when the jury are judging, they're immersed in the work, and they're having to take on a lot of information and seeing lots of entries. So if the actual description on the brief and what the execution was isn't clear, I think that's tough. I also think just making sure that the images are correct and there's video content to help with it. And when there's an opportunity to even elaborate more about the entry, kind of just bullet point in it and make it very simple. So I think people overcomplicate their entry sometimes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Again, like I've just started judging some awards here and there, and you do find like when you're again like I can imagine you guys when you're deep into it, and you're like, oh my god, I think the simpler, and the more digestible it is, again, letting the work speak for itself in some respects, I guess. Going forward then, Adam, like how are you conscious and like around like helping transform Pentawards into more than just being an award?
Yeah, nice. So when I started 9 years ago, we were known just as a competition and a gala ceremony. And I think something which I was very conscious about was that to make it really successful, you have to really engage with the community. And the feedback from the community was, we could be doing so much more. We've got this amazing platform. Yeah. How can we do more for the next generation? Or how can we talk about trends? Or how can we do more meetups where we're just sharing ideas and thought leadership? And actually, that's how I met Chloe and John, because my first interaction with Chloe Templeman was in 2018 at the gala ceremony. It was the first one I was involved in. And Chloe was so nice because she came up to me and said, "What is this? This is shit." Because
that's
what
being
Chloe
nice.
was that's the toe down version. But what Chloe was saying was, at that gala ceremony, we got all the jury on stage, and it was 10 white middle-aged European men. And I thought the same, because I'd only been there a few months. I thought the same. This doesn't represent the industry. It isn't as diverse. And I think this was the way of Chloe saying to me, we could do better.
I love it. All right, that's a nice You've done this before, Adam. That's a nice transition into Chloe's story. So Chloe Templeman, recognisable for the bold red hair and the fearless creative direction. Get me, Pearl Fisher represent. Top line, where are you from and what do you do?
I am the Executive Creative Director of the London studio of Pearl Fisher. I'm also the co-president of the Pentawards jury. And I've been doing that. This is our 4th year as co-presidents with John, the amazing and fabulous and wonderful John Glasgow. But I've been involved with Pentawards, like Adam says, I've been winning Pentawards since about 2014-15.
Come on.
Yeah. And then I think, exactly like Adam says, we're in Barcelona, and I was just so frustrated. Like I'd won a couple, I'd been winning for a few years now, as well as so many other people who were going on stage were, way more representative than the people judging the work. And I was just got to a point where I was just really annoyed. In my defense, I didn't know that he was the head of Pentawards at the time. He just asked me, what do I think? And I said, this is bullshit. Why is there not one woman up there? Why does everybody look the same? So then when he told me he was the head of Pentawards, I didn't back down, and then I ended up just telling him everything that I thought. And he was really open, and like he said there, so many people were probably saying amazing things to him, how great it was, and that's not what he needed. he was, you were just about to step into the role, Adam, as I remember, and you were there to observe and you were there to kind of hear from creatives. So really fortuitous that you ended up bumping into me. But yeah, I've been involved. To be fair, I think there's a misconception of the story that Adam then turned around and went, right, you're a judge. That's not what happened. You still got to earn your stripes. So it was a couple of years later that he then got back in touch. I remember when he asked me to be a judge for the first time and said, what I'd said to him had really stuck with him. And also, you need to be one of the judges this year. Would you be up for it? And I obviously jumped at the chance. I think, you have to be it you have to see it, to be it. And you can't really be mouthy and say there's not enough women on the jury and then turn it down when it gets offered to you. So I jumped at the chance, and I've loved every part of being a Pentawards juror and now co-president ever since.
I love it. Sick. So building on that then, how are you from the inside out, so to say, helping drive the change then?
I think me and John from the very beginning, even before we, like you say, the story of how we got involved in the Pentawards, wanted to kind of be the face of change, but also the Pentawards guys are so open. That's the one thing I would say. There's lots of people that you say these things to and they go, oh yeah, okay, brilliant, we'll change that, and then nothing happens. Whereas Adam, Jen, Chloe S, the whole team have been so receptive, and I think me and John have really relished in being co-presidents when we can actually put suggestions forward and come up with, ideas, or even just working with the guys to say we need to be. I think when I joined, there wasn't parity of sort of male-female split. And I think it was 2 years ago, I remember being on stage at the gala and we announced that it was 51% female, 49% male for the first time in, I think it was about 18 years. So things like that are amazing. And I think it is obviously John and I who come with thoughts and ideas, but it's also these guys who are also coming up with thoughts and ideas and also listening and then actioning some of the stuff. So not only with the diversity of the jury, but like you say, the speakers, who's speaking, what's getting spoken about, as well as our latest venture, which I'm sure we'll come on to later, which is the pipeline, which is all about the next generation. So they've always been so receptive to tapping into our brains and just seeing what we think about things.
Yes, people, quick one. I always remember starting out in packaging design, absolutely buzzing for my mum to finally understand what I did for a living. And the first time she held something that I had designed, it all clicked for her. And then I told her that I'd won an award for it. You know how it is. There ain't nothing better than a proud mum, and that's why I'm partnering with the Pentawards. If you've poured your heart into a bit of packaging design over the past year, enter your finest work into Pentawards 2026. Get the recognition you and your team deserves, and most importantly, make Mumsy proud. You get me? Come on, the one that matters, innit? You have the potential to be holding one of these shiny little numbers that I've got in my hand here. I might have pinched these ones, but we're getting there. And yeah, big love to Pentawards for backing the craft for 20 years, and this is the legacy year, so even more a reason to enter and be a part of history. So yeah, the deadline's the 27th of March. You can find a link in my bio, and you all know Mumsy loves a deal, so I've got a little coupon code for your head tops. Enter Make Mum Proud, all uppercase at checkout, and get your award entries in right now. Run it up, don't sleep, make Mumsy proud. Big up Pentawards. Let's go, people. Good luck. Yeah, love that. Actually, I want to talk about that just a little bit before we do later as well. So again, behind like all these shiny little awards and that, design can be a very difficult industry to break into, so I speak for all of us really on this call, but from your perspective, Chloe, what responsibility, big one, what responsibility do we have as creatives to, to open doors for others?
I think it is 100% our responsibility. If anybody knows my story, I broke into the industry through a bursary program, which was, trying to diversify the pool of people that they had back in 2007. And if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the people in the industry making that program given us the money to come down to London, there's no way I would have made it there's no way that I would be in London right now. So I do think it is on us. I don't think both myself and John do lots of stuff. We have done lots of stuff throughout our whole career. It is so easy to give someone, 20 minutes of your time. I think so many creatives think that you only have to give someone a job to help someone. I think sometimes just listening to people, giving them portfolio advice, obviously opening the doors as much as you can, whether that's your studio, whether that's the network of people that you've got. If you don't have anything now, being able to kind of use your network and use the platform, which is something that John and I have really grabbed hold of with double hands when we got the chance with Pentawards. We've got a global platform now, so we often talk about and really try and push the next generation of talent, and how can we help open some doors to let people not only into the industry but even into the judges' room, and to hear those conversations and to be part of those conversations and to decide, which is like I say, something we kicked off last year with the pipeline, and it was like the best judging session ever. I know that John and Adam will agree.
Sick. Love it. Okay, that's a lovely transition into John Glasgow. Telling me, bro. Right, so a former street artist turned agency founder out here in New York as well. Come on. Top line, where are you from and what do you do?
So I am originally from London, West London, Shepherd's Bush originally. And yeah, I'm the co-founder of a creative agency called Vault 49, which, as you said, started off initially as two guys in London just wanting to express themselves, and it was expressed in the medium was screen printing. The format was kind of empty, disused spaces in London, and we would go up around the communities, putting all of our work up to just express ourselves, just to get our work from a sense of joy, from a sense of play. There were no names, no contact details, no kind of commercial intent. It was just purely for the love of it. And I think even back then, the biggest impression it had on me was connecting with these local communities, having people within these communities react to the work. And I just kind of loved this kind of two-way conversation we had with people then. And then from there, went from street art into an artist collective because other creators were loving what we were doing, wanted to collaborate, became this artist collective. And then from there, we just kind of evolved into an agency. Being in New York, 22 years now, kind of transitioning from kind of street artists in London to street artists and creative in New York, doing similar shenanigans of going around, kind of fly posting around, just getting our work out. And yeah, it just led to opportunities and led to work. And I will just drop in a little line because you talked about merch, because I also keep reminding myself that we had done a little merch line. We tried to create our own little merch company, which totally failed. But at the same time, the creative press saw all of this work that we were doing with this merch line when we were turning up to trade shows. And then we kicked off this fashion line with another English designer in New York, which blew up in like 2008, to when kind of 10 years after that, Jay-Z and his team brought the company out. So bring full circle, let's do a Pentawards merch line. I have some experience there.
I'm ready.
Oh, come on. Nice. All right. Sick. Love that. Right. Sick. So how did you get involved and why did you get involved with Pentawards, and how did you end up meeting Adam?
Well, this is a journey. So stepping back a little bit, I remember knowing of the Pentawards, hearing the Pentawards, and for me it was this kind of premium, super elite awarding body for packaging. As a designer, you want to be involved, like you want to win it. It's a pinnacle to do that. But it just felt, and Adam and Chloe, I love Chloe's story actually, it's just coming in with no BS. But it was this space where I was just like, well, no one looks like me there. So there's probably something that I won't be able to achieve. So my focus, would love to do it, would love to be a part of it, but it doesn't feel like a community that's for me. So kind of ignored it for a good couple of years. And then fast forward, we did this collaboration on a project, and that project had done, sorry, my phone went there. That project had done a put it into the Pentawards. So we were in New York at the time. So we said, all right, we'll go and collect the awards. So we went there. It was my first experience of being kind of behind the scenes, experiencing what a Pentawards award ceremony was like. So we collected the awards. It was in New York. It was at the Guggenheim. And then, so I still had this perception of this being this elite space. There was a lot of kind of, within that space, a lot of people who kind of didn't represent where I come from. So I thought, and then this Cockney guy comes up at the drinking sessions after. He's like, "You're John from Vault 49, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, who's this random kind of like guy from East London who's come up to me?" And he started talking. He's like, "Yeah, I've taken over the Pentawards and whatnot. Love that you were here and stuff like that." And it really kind of blew my perception of what that evening was about, because the guy who ran it felt like someone who was my mate from back in London. That sounded like me, that kind of came from a similar background. And that really kind of flipped things on its head. So fast forward, maybe this was about 2018, Adam? 18, 19?
18,
So fast forward a couple of years and we're going through COVID. But as we're going through COVID, BLM hits. So I get a message from Adam, and he reached out and said, "Hey, can I have a conversation?" So we have a conversation. He was in a moment of reflection, thinking about, hey, like most companies, like most industries, they were really kind of looking at themselves in the mirror and thinking about what could we do more as they kind of looked at the landscape of their company and what they represented. So here was Adam kind of going on that journey himself, and he was looking for some people of color to kind of have conversations with and see how we could advise and do better. And then he invited me to do a talk. So I was quite conflicted, like, all right, and I was getting approached by a good few numbers of like editorials and speaking opportunities. And I really had to think about, do I want to be that person who goes up on stage and kind of represents my community here? Would I feel like it's a token jester by these people reaching out? But I quickly, similar to what Chloe said, right? Here's an opportunity for us to kind of be the face of change and use our voice and use this platform to talk about some of the challenges that we have as a female and a person of color. So I did that, but came in quite hard. And then, yeah, just said, put it back on the team. I was invited to do a talk. I spoke about my experiences as a Black designer and how this moment was challenging for me, but I'm going to put this mirror back at the Pentawards and Adam and say, hey, I want to make sure we're having a conversation in 5 years' time and seeing where you're at on this journey. And the beautiful part of that conversation was Adam said, yes, I'm going to take up that challenge. I'm going to show you that I'm going to use this opportunity to make change. And that's what he's done ever since. There's been change. We've seen it. He's brought Chloe and I on board as jury members at first, but now we are the face of the Pentawards. But again, it's not just a face. He's allowing us behind the scenes to actually make real impactful changes.
Nice. I love it. Sick. Right. So, you know, John, like, it's something I've been conscious of since being in the industry too. Do you know what I mean? Like the lack of diversity through kind of a lot of agencies I've worked at. Do you know what I mean? From your perspective, why do you feel like the design industry is still struggling so much with diversity?
I think there's probably layers to this. I think a lot of it is, there's one part where the industry is just kind of so structured and there's so many kind of people in place where, they're not really recognizing that having the benefits of having a diverse team, having different voices in the room is really going to enrich a project naturally, because people are bringing those different experiences and input in it. And ultimately, your consumer base is going to be diverse. It's going to be representation from across the board. But I think people at the decision-making level, where people of color, where not enough females are being able to penetrate and make that change at that level, is not trickling down. And then I think it's the reverse from the bottom upwards as well. And I know that being a parent now, if you're a parent of someone who comes from a minority community, if you're looking up in the industry and the heads of that industry are predominantly white, are predominantly male, why are you going to want to put your child through that of being the first, of of maybe not succeeding or getting to the heights that they want to reach. So those are just two of many challenging reasons that I think are why the industry is struggling with diversity and having enough change at that leadership level and seeing enough females and people of color represented in those spaces.
Yeah, I mean, building on what you said before about doing I didn't actually know the merch did a full 360 and ended up actually getting endorsed by Jay-Z. That's a mad thing. But again, pushing forward and actually acting on what you're saying here, you've collaborated with organizations such as the Obama Foundation and again, like Jay-Z's Sean Carter Foundation on creative educational programs and stuff like that. Like, how did that end up coming about?
Man's done his research, isn't it?
Come on.
Through frustration, really. So I was complaining a lot about my experience as a student, as a person of color, for when I was a student, the challenges I went through and then coming up into the industry. What was beautiful and lucky for me, probably separately to Adam and Chloe and yourself, Sheps, is I was able to create an environment with a business partner who really respected that as well. So there was always a safe space, excuse me, to go back to. So whether I was kind of walking into rooms as the only person of color, I had my boy with me all that time, supporting me. And I had an environment that felt like I didn't have to wear many hats. I could come and be myself in that environment. And I think that's probably one of the appeal of why certain type of clients really like that and came to us. So I had that safety net, but outside of that, I felt frustrated. Like, I was the only one walking into a room most of the time of color, or feel like my ideas at the time didn't feel like they were landing because people couldn't relate to it because they hadn't been close enough to these communities to understand that viewpoint. So with that those frustrations, I met a friend who had a similar frustrations, Lawrence Latte. And he was on a journey of kind of wanting to do stuff with young people. So we kind of got paired up through a mutual friend. She was just fed up of hearing his frustrations and my frustrations. So she said, we'll just meet each other. And we spoke about it. And he was bringing some young people over to New York at the time. So I spoke to them. And then separately after them was like, look, we could really help elevate this idea of a student exchange and really kind of make an impact. So we started off with Jay-Z and his team, who were very receptive to doing something, bringing people who come from challenging environments, whether it's low-income environment, identify as a ethnic minority, and haven't had the chance to travel. And travel was a big component of that. If you take someone out in an environment, bring them into a different environment, I find it's very inspiring, and they come out of their shell a little bit more. And then we paired those American young people with creatives out of the UK as well. And that was a journey. And we felt the impact literally ourselves. We just saw this powerful thing happening between these creatives out of the US and these creatives out of London. So we just continued on that journey. We always tried to make sure we documented the journey. So you really see how these creatives had evolved over the 2-week exchange, how they were quite timid, especially the UK lot, very timid. US, they don't, they're very confident. But the UK ones were quite timid. But then you saw by the end of it, the UK creators have come out of their shell, were a lot more vocal. So we just kind of felt like we've got something quite sweet here. And that was about 10 years ago, and we just kept growing it. Then we get sponsored by brands. Then the Obama Foundation see one of the videos we were doing about 5 or 6 years ago and said, can you replicate this for us? And one of our highlights was when we did the Jordan exchange. The Jordan team loved what we did. There was people like Howard White on the call, Tinker Hatfield. Research those guys, look up who they are because they're icons within brand Jordan and Nike. And they loved it. Tinker Hatfield's feedback to the young people was, this is the most best presentation I've ever seen, not by creative students, actually ever by anyone, any agency. Brand Jordan in the UK saw it, loved it. They had an activation. They said, can we reproduce it and pay the students for it? They did that. The documentation we did on the back of it got entered in for 2 Emmys and it got shortlisted. So then we had to bring the young people to the Emmy award ceremony to experience an Emmys, like myself and Lawrence at the time. They didn't win, but ultimately they won, right? They won just being in those spaces and making those changes.
Yeah, I love it. Sick. I mean, again, there's one thing about talking about it, but then there's another thing doing it, and big up, bro. That's sick. I'm gonna put this one to all three of you now before we go into the 20 years deep section. A lot of people are scared of getting it wrong. Even myself at times, I've got a platform where I like to bring this to awareness as much as possible, but even I'm conscious about saying the wrong bloody thing at times, you know what I mean? And in the edit going over it being like, oh God. What's all of your takes about designers taking political positions, so to say? Or do you not feel like people should stay neutral as such, but why do you think people stay neutral sometimes?
I think some people might stay neutral because they work for an agency that you're representing them sometimes. I do think the bigger the agencies, the more, and client side as well. I know, sometimes you're not necessarily allowed to talk about your views because it represents the whole company. I do think, again, with the Pentawards, I don't know if we've ever felt like we couldn't talk about anything. I feel like we're quite open and we talk quite a lot about some stuff. And I do think that's because Pentawards is a more kind of trying to be a bit more forward facing and use their global platform for good. But I do know the only thing I can think of is companies. I know that sometimes, especially the bigger ones, don't necessarily want to get too political or take a side. Depends what their clients are. I think it's a really kind of deep and complex subject, and everybody is allowed their own opinion and allowed to express it as they want it. But I do think creatively, and you can see this. I mean, John's CV and the stuff that he's done is just amazing, and that's why one of the main reasons that I absolutely jumped at the chance to be the co to his co was to just kind of soak up some of the stuff that he's doing and learn a little bit more about that the bravery to just put yourself out there and give it a go, and really successfully give it a go as well. I don't know, John, if you think if it's a bit easier when you own your own company, or do you think that that's even worse because then it's all on you?
Yeah, there is a danger, but let me pause for a second because Chloe is dope. Chloe is amazing. Chloe has an amazing reputation in the industry. And I also want to say that I love sharing the stage, the platform with this amazing person. And I love that. I feel like we've been drawn and pulled together because we have similar beliefs and ambitions. There was a question you asked earlier about the giving back. Why should we give back and the importance of it? I knew Chloe was doing this years ago, and for her, and I think it's the same for me and Adam as well, is it shouldn't even be a question. It should be naturally what we do as people wanting to pave the way for the next generation as well and give back what we've experienced, especially coming from our environments. No one here comes from really kind of silver spoon kind of fed environments. We come from challenging environments ourselves, so I think it's within us. But yeah, I've loved being on this journey, getting to know Chloe. I've known her for her creative excellence, and I know her for the stuff she gives back as well. So it's a real kind of it's been a proud journey for me to be able to share and make change through the Pentawards platform with her. Yes.
John.
I just wanted to make sure you had your flowers there. Yeah, I think it's challenging as a business owner, right? Because we've been burnt. You want to be that. You want to work with clients that allow you to share your voice, to share your opinion, and it's a safe space because it's a collaboration. But the reality is, it's not always the case. You find those brand managers, those brand leaders, which you can have that open, honest, authentic conversation with. Which is great, and you try to hold on to those. And I think our longest relationship have been with those brands because that's when you get the best out of each other and the best out of the work. But you get those brands that don't, because there are people on the other side of it that have egos. So where we've been very open and honest and being very frank, we've lost work, and it's damaged the business. So it's a real kind of balancing fine line to walk on, and we're constantly walking on that line. We really encourage our team to be honest in those conversations, no matter what level you are. But, I can imagine for the team, it's challenging because they know if they go too provocative, if they get too kind of challenging with clients, we might lose that business. And then that has a real kind of impact on the numbers that come through the business. So it's a hard balance to be. But my belief is that there's enough clients out there, there's enough connections out there for you to work with the right like-minded people. So we definitely err on, let's be provocative, let's be real, let's be transparent with our clients, because when we lose the ones we lose, it's an opportunity to build a new relationship with some new brands and find those connections, those real long-lasting connections with brands.
Nice. Can I chime in with something?
Please.
Which I think's so.
We're waiting, Adam.
Sorry. No, I think this question's amazing, and it really makes me feel like to talk about the journey at Pentaward when I first started. So, when a company acquires another one, especially at Easy Fares that acquired Pentawards, there's a rule in place where the first 2 years you can't make any changes, right? Because you have to learn every part of the business, you have to understand the community. And what I honestly feel that has happened on this journey, and it is down to Chloe and John, I honestly mean this, was you two were so honest with me about what should be happening. I was stuck. I wasn't sure whether I could go and ruffle these feathers of what had happened before, from these founders who were a lot older than me, in their late 70s. They'd done the Pentawards in a way which had been like that since the beginning. And I had my own personal views. I had my own kind of beliefs. And it wasn't until Chloe and John really were honest with me where I was like, this doesn't A, represent the industry, or A, represent where I want to take this business. So these two gave me the opportunity to really stand up for what I believe in. And what that was at the start was the diversity, was the community aspect, was the, even if you don't enter these awards, what are for the designers, what are for these brands? And it is the community part. So I really feel like John and Chloe allowed me to be more authentic in my role day to day, because I was actually like, well, I'm from East London. I have a working class family. I went to a school where it was so diverse. White people were the minority in my school, right? And I came into an organisation where I knew about the organisation, but I didn't know what I could change in an authentic way, which was where I came from. And John and Chloe both gave me that, like, you should be really proud of where you're from, because even when I was at the first gala ceremony, I had to present the whole gala ceremony, and I was speaking differently to what I am now. I was trying to be more posh. I was trying to be more like, I'm working for a really commercial business, a corporate business. Everyone's in suits. I wore a suit every day to work. But then I'd go to like design festivals or meet up with the designers going to their offices. I was wearing a suit. These guys were more chilled and relaxed. And I was like, I need to break out of this machine and get to really where the people are, the community are. The community don't need me coming in a suit and speaking like I'm posh. I'm from East London. I've got an attitude where I'm open, and it's all about building authenticity. And John and Chloe, they gave me that. So it was like, even now, when we're doing things at work, because Easy Fares has lots of other events, they do exhibitions, there'll be ideas that John and Chloe and I will speak about, and I'm like, Easy Fares won't rate this, but it works for us, so we're going to do it. And like, just being that bold, like me actually standing in a room with the senior leadership team saying, this is what we're doing, and like really standing by it, was because of Joey and because of Chloe and John. I nearly put your name together.
Joey, I love
Joey.
that.
But I think the business, aside from, if you look, awards are businesses and it will have this reputation. But I feel like if you're really listening to community and driving for the community, the business will come. That will come after.
Agreed.
So yeah, it's been a journey. These two, they should take a lot of kudos. We are the platform, but we certainly listen to the ideas and they really push it forwards.
And Adam, could you Because I remember, like you mentioned there, that first moment of when Chloe was like, look, that stage, that doesn't kind of represent the industry. What was the biggest change? Because if you think about the jury, I remember the jury being quite small and tight, but now, what are we, 50 plus?
Yeah, it's global.
How did you break down some of those barriers you had to do internally with the Easy Fairs team to kind of start to push for that diversity and representation?
Yeah, I think it was really being open. Like, I think the first ones were, we had 10 white European men, and they would stay, like, they wouldn't ever change the jury. And I think the initial thing was explaining about, well, we need to change this to give more people opportunities, and then obviously looking at who the creative directors were, the different types of agencies, like also like the ages of people, their skill set. So we would have pretty much all like really hardcore packaging designers, and I was like, well, we might need an industrial designer, or you need an illustrator, or you need like a young designer who's 23, 24 that has got a different perspective. But I think as well, and this is where me and John had like such a great initial conversation around this. I remember, I know I spoke to you about this, John. There was an evening I stayed late at work, and I went through all the big agencies across Europe and across America. And I was looking, because on lots of websites you go on and you can see the people. I remember, I told you this, John, I spent 3 hours and I went on all these top websites of all these main agencies, and I think I found like 3 black people that were there. And I was like, oh my God, this is just, there's something bigger than the issue that, even if we had a pipeline of people we could get on the jury, they're not there. So like, I remember me and John had a conversation about it, and he recommended some really amazing people. And then internally at work, there was this conversation where, when Black Lives Matters was happening, we had to be really authentic in the way that it wasn't seen to just like the CD leadership team. It's just the moment where we're going to tick a box. And John called it out on the call. Like, he did this presentation where he's like, I feel like this is an act of tokenism. And I said, do you know what, John? We need to do better. I said, I just appreciate you're here to kind of fly the flag for people like you, and we can use this platform, what you need to do. And I felt like at the time there was a little bit of, let's not lean into politics, what's going on. And I was like, no, we need to. This is really it. And, sometimes I get in trouble at work because I do things without asking. But I sometimes know what the outcome should be, rather than listening to somebody who doesn't understand, isn't on the ground, like having the conversations. So what I would say is I made decisions, and then in return, the senior leadership team were supportive and said, do you know what, you got that right, and you were right. So people took ownership, which I think is really important. And like, people need to forget their egos and just understand that this is for the best. This is right. This is the right decision. But very tough to handle in the moment with other people.
Yeah. Great takes, all 3. Do you know what I mean? Thank you very much. Any more before I move on?
I think I just, what has been great about this whole journey, and I know that we're all saying lovely things about each other, is I do think it is that authenticity. I think that we've always been super authentic and true to who we are. Maybe it is our upbringing and the fact that I actually can't be anybody other than myself. So the fact that I went up to the guy at this award ceremony and told him I thought it was bullshit, it's like, that's totally something that I would do, and I probably still would do. And I think me and John, we had a conversation last week as well, and we were like, we still are challenging what's next, and what do we want to do next, and what's the next thing that we're not done and we're not finished. So I think that's kind of in both of us, and it's definitely within Adam. And I think if they had someone else to take over the Pentawards, I'm not quite sure the direction that I would have gone in. But I do think the thing that's always been amazing about the whole Pentawards team is, even if they don't necessarily know, their ears are so open to learn or to work late, to find out. And I think the really great thing about inviting more people into the club that are a little bit more, that are different, is then they, like you say, John's got a list of people that he knows in his sphere. I know loads of people in my sphere, and the more diverse the spheres are and the people are, you're almost kind of fishing in new ponds rather than just the same sort of stagnant one well, no, there's not enough women in creative directors. Like, we know this, that needs to change. We do also support lots of different mentoring programs to try and change that, but I do think it's that sort of authenticity and willingness to keep your ears open and learn and make not necessarily mistakes, but have really open, honest conversations between the three of us and Jen and everybody else, that then, you know, makes these ideas become a real thing and makes us feel like we're really helping instead of just being a token face. Or when we stand up on stage, John, at every gala, like, it is a real proud moment to talk about something that we've been doing. It's not just we're there. It's not just that we were the head of the jury for the 1 day or 2 days of judging. Like, it is all year round. We're always chatting to these guys, and we've always got more and more stuff that we want to kind of tackle.
Yeah, 100%. I think it needs to be continuously challenged, and I think people from unconventional backgrounds, so-called misfits, so to say, create better things anyway. A room full of misfits, beautiful things happen. Do you know what I mean? I love being in a room filled with fucking misfits. You know, love it. Right, amazing. Right, I'm going to move into 20 years deeper to Pentawards now. Before we get into the specifics, when you're all stood in a judging room together, do you tend to agree on what great packaging looks like, or do you find that you have a little scrap and argue a little bit? I can't imagine you scrapping, but you know what I mean.
It's always healthy to have a bit of like a bit of a scrap, or a bit of a verbal scrap. No, I think that's a beauty. So going back and shining a light on what Adam's done. You know, Adam started with those 10 white European men, and I believe what you told me a couple of years back now was like, all right, you're locked in with those 10 men, but I'm going to add 5 more people, and I'm going to add 5 more people and 5. And I think we're 50 plus now. And that's the beauty, right? Because you're going to have different people from around the world coming together, both online and physically, in the second round of judging, talking about the work. So naturally, there's going to be some tension there. So really healthy tension around what we think good design is, why we think this is a good idea versus this as well. So yeah, we do have large discussions. Sometimes Adam has to say the clock is ticking. We need to make a decision because we're going round in circles. So, but I think that's what leads to making sure the right work gets chosen, is because of those tensions, is because of those debates, debating what's the best idea.
Yeah, and I also think I love judging. The judging days are the best because it totally opens your mind as well. Like, you think that you know great design, and you 100% can argue why you think it's great. And then you work with all these other judges who come in and they come at it from such a different point of view. And you get someone like Vincent who will look at the tiniest detail and the foil that's used, and that makes it less luxury because of this. And like, for someone like me who just sponges all this up, it is like you leave the 2 days of live judging, I think, a better designer and a better creative director than you did when you first walked in. It's the arguments, and I wouldn't say it's an argument, I'd say it's just opinions. And sometimes actually just listening to other people's opinions and their experience, and they're coming at it from their experience, from a client point of view or a sustainability point of view. And you end up having really good debates. And sometimes you end up changing your mind and you go, God, actually, I was only looking at it from this point of view. But now that you say that, it doesn't do this, 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 and this. So nah, let's get it down. It doesn't deserve a gold, or it doesn't deserve a silver. So I think I really love doing the judging. Number one, to keep sort of at the top of what's going on in the industry. Like, it's such a shortcut to see all the best work, you know, doing the judging online, even if you don't get to come to the in-person judging, because that's not everybody that does that. Even just seeing what people have put in, and the sort of the caliber, and seeing what's happening across the world. There's a lot of entries I know from China, and, you know, globally now Australia is really big as well. So for me, it's like an education every single year. Every time you judge, you just learn more and more. And I think if it was just all in agreement, I think then you've not got a diverse enough jury in the room. And I do think it's that sort of healthy debate is when you get your eyes opened to new things, and that's again, it makes me better every single year.
Shit, let me building off what Chloe said. It reminded me of an example. So in the last in-person judging, we were judging this work, and I remember thinking, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm not loving it. And then so me and we're having a debate with the judges on this piece of packaging, and then it got put to me, and I was like, oh crap, I've aged out of this, isn't it? It was just totally kind of a different consumer it was targeted. It was Gen Z consumer, and I just couldn't relate to it. But it did spark a good conversation because we paused at that moment and thought, actually, we need to get a younger jury member, someone from that generation who it's targeting to really kind of help support in judging this piece of work. So it was a nice that Adam, Jen, and the team allow us to have that. All right, we kind of have to pause because we've pulled the judges together, but we still don't. There's still someone missing from the jury here to actually speak about why this is relevant for this set of consumers. But yeah, the big aha moment was, damn, I'm getting old.
No, the judging days are incredible, and just to let you know, Sheps, like as much as I'd love to be judging, no one from the Pentawards does any judging. So the 55 jury members are the only people that make the decision. So no one at the Pentawards makes a decision. We get to see all the drama unfold. We get to feel all of the excitement of all the amazing packaging that's set up. So like the day before, the weeks before, when we're putting it all in order. So when the jury come, we're looking at it going, well, we think this might be a top winner. We think like we get really excited and buzzing. So when the jury come in and then their eyes light up like it's Christmas, man. Like they're like, oh my God. So the judging days are amazing. And just building on from what John and Chloe have said, yeah, it's really interesting in the last few years, because we've got a judging criteria and sustainability comes up all the time in the main categories. So we were like, okay, we're going to have a sustainable expert in the room sitting there. They're not a jury member. So if there's something in there which isn't understood from a sustainable point of view, it's usually Susie from Pearl Fisher, again, shout out to Pearl Fisher again, where she could be asked the question about the entry. And then that person can give the facts rather than saying it should win, it shouldn't win. And it's the same with John, like you're saying about the Gen Z. I think we're going to try and pull someone from the pipeline this year to be in the room. And even with entries from Asia or America's, like having a representative in the room that can understand the cultural design, or saying this has been seen a million times before, or it's really good. So we try and just have this really amazing level playing field with the experts judging, plus if we need any other advice and guidance on the sidelines, and a great, just to put it all in the mix as well, all the work is anonymous. So people don't know who's designed the work, if it's a small agency, a new agency, an old one, or even some of the work from the jury members is there, and the jury members can't say anything if their work's being looked at, which is also a bit awkward, but also fascinating, because sometimes jury members can say crazy things. But no, the guys do such a good job over the days, and it's getting bigger and bigger every year. Like last year, we had to hire a whole new floor. It was like an airplane hangar where we had 100 tables and like 700 packs, which had been shortlisted. And we're actually looking, this is a bit of a top secret thing, guys, just for the
exclusive
podcast. We're looking to, because we do our community meetups, we're looking to do our next community meetup in the same room as where all the judging is happening. So like these 700 packs, we're going to invite people to come in to see all the entries, and we might even extend for a few weeks after, called the Pentaward Clubhouse, for people to just come in and to look at the shortlisted work, because it's fascinating and people can learn so much.
Yeah, it is insane, and I think there's not a lot of awards bodies that still do physical judging, and I think especially obviously Pentawards is a packaging specialism awards, and there's so much tactility in a pack, and like it needs to live in your house or in your hand, and I do think there's been a lot of times where it looks amazing on screen and the visuals look absolutely shit hot, and then when we see it in life, in real life, when you got it in our hand, it's completely different, and that is the consumer experience. So I do think it is literally like being in a candy store, where you've like the inspiration of all these packs from all over the world that are obviously the ones that just got through to the shortlist. So Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I know that we were chatting as well about, letting the pipeline guys come in and have a look, because we find it so inspiring. And I'm sort of 19 years in the industry and I still get inspired by those days. So I think it's a great idea to kind of share that out, and whether the clubhouse thing hopefully can become a reality. But it's just such an inspirational, sort of area to walk around without giving away who's won, obviously. But even just seeing the shortlist is, it's definitely, we see it as such a privilege. So again, about opening doors and not gatekeeping that, being able to share that with everybody. Everybody should get to have those experiences and kind of see, which again is another initiative from the Pentawards to kind of sort of democratise and blow those doors down.
Yeah, very nice. Although awards can be inspiring, they can also be controversial at times, as we all know, I guess. What do you think the common misconception is around design awards?
I've got an answer for this.
Go on, Adam.
Obviously. I think, look, first and foremost, obviously, competition awards, that they are a business. It's the same way with designers. It is a business, right? You have to design, you have to get paid. We're a commercial business, and we use the revenues to do more and to build our community, right? So I think just to get that out there as well, like, we are a business and we're not hiding from the fact of that. I think there's lots of other maybe competitions or awards that unfortunately don't have the best reputation, and I think you can judge one on everyone. And that isn't the case with us. We really pride ourselves in doing the best job we can to connect this community and to inspire the next generation. I feel like as well, there are these old school things where people think the more you pay, the more you're going to be a winner. Or if you sponsor, you're going to be a winner. That can't run with us. We just don't allow it. We're all about the integrity of the winners, and the best work wins. And ultimately, we don't hide away from the fact that it costs to enter, and we appreciate, budgets are tight, and if somebody doesn't want to enter, we don't force them. It has to be based on if it's right for your business and it meets the objectives. But we try now as an organisation, if you're entering and you win, you can get the most kind of press. And it also is about, making your team aware of celebrating that moment of being a winner, because I don't know what it's like for you, Sheps and John and Chloe, you might do an amazing piece of work, and as soon as it's done, you're on to the next thing. You don't actually get that moment to celebrate that amazing piece of work where you've worked with so many people. So we want that moment to be celebrated, to promote packaging design as a discipline. And I think last of all, we want to make sure that in the future, awards aren't only about winning. It is also about if you're not a winner. So we introduced for the first time last year where if you enter our awards and you're not shortlisted, there's some written feedback. So you get some tangible, actionable feedback, constructive and positive, where if you pay and you don't win, you get something back from these amazing jury members. And John and Chloe, again, and the wider jury all agree this is more time consuming for them. But actually, I use the metaphor of if you've ever been on a date and you've been ghosted, you just want to know why they ghosted you. So now we give the score feedback, the written feedback, and it's a journey. Like on the roadmap, we want to even get to a stage where if you don't win a gold and you get a silver or bronze, like why did the gold and silver beat me, or why did I just miss out? So we're really looking at processes, looking at AI. We're looking at how we can make it even more better and more holistic, and we're open. If anybody ever wants to come and see the judging, come into the door's open. Come and see us. So yeah, hopefully that helps a bit of the misconception.
Mm-hmm.
I think on that, just side note on that feedback point, I think it does take more time, because you've got, it's when you're doing the first pass, it's not just the shortlist. You have to write feedback on everything. But I do think I've been at Packaging Week with you, Adam, and the amount of people that would stop you and me and say, I did this, and they would show us a piece of work and it didn't get through. Why?
Yeah.
And it might have, sometimes you only judge certain things. You don't necessarily, you'll have beauty judges, you'll have drinks judges, you'll have food judges. And then you're then kind of put in a scenario where you're like, oh God, I didn't judge that. Or if I did judge it, I know why I thought it didn't get through. but is this really the forum to do that? So I think that, again, the evolution of still trying to keep Pentawards better and better and at the forefront of awards was a great initiative to then say everybody who enters gets some sort of feedback, whether that be what was great about it or actually it didn't because of this and this. And sometimes it might be someone who's entered for a couple of years and then they didn't realize that they were doing it. Their entry wasn't as rounded as it could be, or they didn't have enough information. They just put 1 or 2 JPEGs with very, very little information, which makes it really hard to judge. So I do think that transparency does make Pentaward stand out amongst the other awards. I also think, for me, the Pentawards, I know that it is an awards body, but for me, it's so much more than just the awards. It is that community, and it is the fact that you do the meets, you do try and, you're just in China the other day, you've been to New York, London, you're trying to kind of bring the community together and have a bit of a space. And these are free events. Like when you do Pentawards meets, it's free, anybody can go. And I think it's things like that even if you didn't, not everybody has work to enter that they think, or they might not have the budget, or they don't think that it might not be out within the right time, for a year, for example, it doesn't hit the timings, but they can still be part of the Pentawards through the meets, or like you say, through the opening doors, coming in to see what's been shortlisted. So I do think the more and more the Pentawards do things like that, I think that does stand out as more than just about winning.
Yeah, I think building on what Adam said, and your initial question, I remember being on the other side and my perception was, Pentawards isn't for me, isn't the space, or they're just kind of, the big agencies are just winning year in, year out. So why would I as a company put an award in? And then it was another big company that put our work through that we collaborated on, that now on the other side, I see, no, that's totally not the case. It's based on the merit of the work, a strong entry, which has a great write-up, some good photography, a great story, behind the scenes maybe. It's really kind of thought out entry, and the work is great. That's what wins at the end of the day, being on the other side. And then to touch on community, like I feel like more so than what Pentawards do that others don't is just, I'm sat at tables and in conversations with someone I pitched on a week ago, agency I pitched on, but it's all love. I don't know what you're putting in the drink or something, but we're all just together. And I think it is that community you've created. It is that moment of celebration. We've had at the Pentawards Festival, we've had Coca-Cola and Pepsi on the same stage at the same event. And there's still kind of some love shared between them as well. It's this real community environment you've created. And I think it's also the barriers you've been able to break down, Adam, over the years, in terms of going from this kind of elite in body that was perceived to be quite elite, and it was in some ways, but you've transitioned that out to somewhere that feels like very welcoming, very open. I have jury members now who, after 3 or 4 years, they get recycled in with new, fresh faces, and they're just like, I'm so gutted now. Like, I'm now not going to be in and a part of that community. And that's the challenge on us now, is how do we still, this amazing community, make the ex-jury members still feel a part of this as well. So yeah, the environment you've created is just so warm, open and welcoming, and really shifted on, honestly, from where it was before to what it is now.
Yeah, through 20 years, obviously you've all not been there for the 20 years, do you know what I'm saying? But we've all been in the industry for a while. From the top-down perspective of seeing all these entries, what do you feel like the biggest shift in packaging has been from like when you started, or even just your time in the industries, do you know what I mean, to where we're at now?
I'll jump in first, actually. What I think the Pentawards do that allows for new shifts in the industry to quickly be acknowledged, taken on board, and quickly getting jury members to be able to kind of talk towards shifts and changes, is because Adam and the team are keeping the jewelry fresh, adding to the fresh, making it more diverse, but also, and I think equally as important, is they're quick to question, like, how did it go this year? What have we done right? What we haven't done right? And that goes out to all the jewelry members. And the team take the time. So Adam and Jen and Chloe and Anna will take time going around to all the jewelry members and talking. And I remember kind of one of the things was that how do we, when we're judging a rebrand, if we've got a big kind of global brand that are doing a small shift, but it's making a big impact on their business, versus a new to world packaging, which has no limitations and it's totally different. How do we make sure something small is still kind of respected and judged at the same level as something who's coming in new that can kind of do anything from scratch and don't have a baggage maybe of a global brand. And then we created a new judging system for that as well. So I think the flexibility that the team have, the honesty, the openness for criticism, and raising the bar year after year has allowed for those quick shifts or those industry trends or new things that come in to be really kind of accepted when we go into the next year. So we're always kind of never kind of getting, the team feel like they're always moving, never getting kind of like, all right, we've got things no, we're a business, everything's running smoothly, let's just carry on as we were. They're like, no, how can we do better? How can we move forward? We did something wrong this time, we're going to make sure we evolve next time to allow for that shift, that thing we missed last time to really be captured the next time.
I would answer, if I could answer it a completely different way, since that I agree with everything John said, I would say in the last, not 20 years, because I'm still so young, I've not been in the industry that long yet, but since I've been involved in Pentawards and judging, I would say the biggest shift is, I think packaging used to be about beauty and how it looked and like the surface. It just needed to look nice. And I think more with the sort of the rise of sustainability, that was obviously a couple of years ago now, everything had to be sustainable, to the point we then made it our own category just on sustainability. But actually every single thing we judge, if it's like layers upon layers upon layers and it's just waste, then that almost feels overpackaged. So I would say from something before that used to be, it was really beautiful because it had all this depth. Now a lot of people are looking at the materials that they use. Is it really wasteful? I would say as well, more recently, last couple of years, accessibility. Like, this is a pack that needs to be for everybody in the world to be able to use. So I think that was obviously Tilt last year won was it the Diamond that they won? Which was accessible makeup and packaging. But before that, we had things like Microsoft with Kevin Marshall and his team that, we were starting, and it was so clever, and you're starting to see stuff coming through. And again, it changes the way that you design, it changes the way you think about packaging. And I think that can only be a good thing if we start to really, I know I always say this, that we're not saving lives, but I do think with really good design, you can improve people's lives. And actually being able to think about accessibility when you're thinking about a pack, how does it open? How does it function? What's the after use of it? Like, all of these things are so much more than just, does it look pretty? And I do think the more and more I've seen over the last couple of years, that becomes just as important as looks. The sort of the story behind it, and there needs to be, obviously a beautiful story or a big idea, let's say. But I do think more recently, and hopefully that will only continue, the more accessible and the more sustainable, and the way that packaging will evolve, hopefully into sort of less waste and more functionality, which is a great, it's a great problem to be able to solve, isn't it?
Bang.
Very nice.
Bang on. You kind of stole my answer, Chloe, to be honest.
Did I? Sorry. You're so
But to kind of elaborate on that, I think, it's definitely gone from like a beauty parade to more purpose over the last 20 years. And I think because we are 20 years this year, I looked through all the archives, and I think definitely in the 2000s there was this beauty parade. And interestingly enough, when I first started at Pentaward, there was no judging criteria. It was based on the beauty of the product. And then I think in from 2010 onwards, you kind of gone from the look at me era to the like me era, because obviously Instagram came in, it was the aesthetic lead moment. However, I do feel now this decade is really pivoting towards more the include me era. So like a focus on authenticity, the purposefulness, and like Chloe said, the accessible design side. So yeah, there's three eras in the last 20 years that I've seen kind of the movement, but it definitely has now. There's still a place for like beautiful looking packaging that brings you joy, but I would say now packaging is definitely, there's a proportion of it where it's all about the purpose. And obviously that is led by the consumer wanting more and kind of buying into these purpose-driven brands.
Yeah, that reminds me as well, Adam, the purpose, but also the functional purpose, like the earthquake kit of a couple of years ago. Like, it looked beautiful. If you, maybe we'll put a little visual of it on screen when we're chatting through this. But it was a beautiful. It was a kit that looked beautiful because it needed to be like sitting out in people's houses. So it needed to be pretty enough to be out in someone's house, and it didn't look like a danger warning earthquake kit. But when an earthquake hits, it needed to be super easily grabbable and then really, really functional, all the layers, and it was amazing. And like, I do think real kind of functional packaging as well. The other one that springs to mind is it was the covers for children when they're in hospital, to cover the sort of drip bags, or to cover the sort of medical equipment. Like, that's amazing. That's like really purposeful packaging that is, obviously, it serves a purpose for someone in their life to kind of help their life. So I think the more, those are the two that I can think of at the top of my head, but I do think that sort of, yes, accessibility, sustainability, and purpose from like a good cause, but also from like a functional saving lives kits that do still need package and still can look functional and beautiful at the same time.
Exactly that. That was going to be my build, is how you saw maybe, with the drive of being more sustainable, these different materials that felt very beige and didn't feel premium. But you'll see maybe even last year, as early as last year, and I know we're going to see it pushed on even more in this year, is how you're bringing the beauty and these new materials to life, how you're rethinking how beauty comes to life through a sustainability lens. And that might be the tactility, it might be technology's moved on, so now it's less about being beige around the beige, but it's also celebrating these new materials. And that's been the biggest challenge for agencies, is like, as we start to shift in and bring in these more sustainable materials, if you're still working in kind of premium luxury spirit spaces or luxury beauty spaces, how do you make them feel beautiful as well? And I think there's been some really successful pieces over the last couple of years. And one that stands out from a purpose point of view is, again, how do you bring that purpose and that story to life when it comes to packaging design? And I remember there was one based on a South American community where they were kind of building homes for that community, but those homes became a part of the packaging and the structure and the design, the graphic way it was laid out on the pack. So they're really kind of connecting the dots from a purpose point of view, but they're taking it through a graphic lens and bringing that kind of that sense of storytelling, but still being amazing. If I saw that work and didn't know it was the story behind it, and the structure and the geometry of it was based on the structure of the homes that they were building, I still would have thought this is an amazing piece of design that deserves an award. So that story behind it just really elevated it into kind of, I think it hit a gold a couple of years ago.
Nice. For people entering, tips and tricks, give them the sauce. How can people have a better chance of winning these awards? With obviously, there's a standard of work that needs to be met regardless. We all know that. Do you know what I mean? Let's be real. Do you know what I mean? Like, it needs to be fucking good at the end of the day. But again, like, is it in presenting the work, like you said? Is it the narrative that needs? Is it over narrating, like we spoke on earlier? Like, yeah, give us some tips and tricks to entering.
For me, it's all of the above, everything you said there, Sheps. But what I'm looking for is a really kind of concise story with a great story arc in there, understanding what the challenge is, what the insight was, where the big idea was unlocked, and then how you translated that big idea into packaging. How you narrate that story is super important. Keeping it, I think, Adam, you said it earlier, concise. Maybe utilizing bullet points to understand, because the jury have to go through a lot of work. So getting through that story really quickly, understanding the big idea. Couple of things that are just no-brainers for me. If you're doing a rebrand, show the before and after. Like,
Yeah.
though, if you're making me do extra work, having to then go and like research, where can I find the before? Is this the before? I'm not 100% sure if it is the before. Showing the before and after in a rebrand is really important, so we can really see some of that, the shift you've made, because sometimes it might be a small shift, but it's such a powerful shift that you've done for that brand, and we see that unlock and we understand that unlock and that pivot. And behind the scenes, I'm a sucker for behind the scenes, showing the progress. It doesn't have to be like it could just be one image where you might have gone in the archive for this brand and seen a typeface from 30 years ago that you've brought back to life and remixed because you felt like it's lost a bit of its brand story, and you're bringing that heritage story in a modern way, some of that behind the story building. And like you said, yeah, making sure there's some real nice beauty shots of your product, but not over beauty, because you're going to get found out if you've kind of put too much kind of 3D on there, or you've kind of put some beautified it too much, and then it didn't translate into print actually what consumers are going to see. Because when we do that in-person judging, we get to have that final judging over what materials you're using, the quality of the actual production of the piece as well, because all that comes into play right down to the last moment.
Yeah, I would agree with all of those. I think the why is really important. Like, why have you done that? And like John was saying, if it's the typography is that way because you found something in the archives, or because it's inspired by something here that you've seen, or like, I want to know why. Otherwise, it's just like you've just picked a font and you've just picked a color. Like, what has inspired you, and why does it make sense for this brand only? Because I do feel the more you judge, the more you see. Sometimes there's almost like themes and everything starts to kind of merge together. But if you've done something that's a real kind of like a nugget or some sort of real gem of a little thing that we would call it diving for pearls, chefs at Pearl Fisher. But if you've found that little pearl, if you've found that insight, and then you've managed to translate that onto the packaging, like for me, that's what makes you sort of start to no-brainer sort of jump up into from, the initial, not necessarily low scores, but from the sort of short list up. So I think the more that you can tell that story, the better. Like John says, a lot of these people are creatives who are judging. I don't love loads of reading, especially when you're on your 150th entry. I think when I'm judging, I usually look at the work first, the same way as a consumer would. I look at the work first, I kind of make my own judgments of it, and then usually I can kind of get a sense of it, and then I'll go and read the story. And I do think other judges might be different. They might read it first and then look at it. But for me, it needs to be obvious to, I was going to say my mum, but then obviously the podcast is about my mum.
Of course, it needs to be obvious. That's the whole point. Do you know what I mean?
I think it does. It's like it needs to be obvious to everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
But also maybe that sort of extra level of hidden storytelling or detail that the designer eye would then just get. It's like, that little kind of extra bit. So for me, the best entries are really clear on what it is and why it is. Films are always quite good. Not everybody has has a film department. But even if it's the really basic, like you say, John, behind the scenes, we did this. This is, it was inspired by the ocean, and you've got a picture of the ocean, and then it goes into the color of the bottle or whatever it is. Even if it's really basic, you're not getting judged on your film. You're getting judged on the idea. And I think if a film is a great way to show that inspiration, even if it's a bit clunky, then I don't care about how the quality of the film. I think it's about the why and the ideas behind it. So anything like that, I think, and yeah, to John's point, I've spoke about this before, the Instagram versus reality. Make sure that it's truthful. Our bullshit barometer is pretty good when we're in the judging. If somebody thinks it's not real, we'll be Googling it. We'll be trying to find if it's real. And there's a whole category for concepts, just not real into the world work, but just concepts. So it should have been entered into that, not something that is, a real product. So I think, and Adam and the whole team are really sharp on that as well, to the point where we've had to double check. And Adam, you guys really go into thoroughly to make sure that all the work that is getting awarded is true, real work out into the world. So I think making sure it looks as best as it can in as many angles for the first sort of judging on online, remembering the first judge is online, and then if it gets to the real life judging, it'll be in person. And it does make such a difference when we can have the physical there as well. I know it's not always possible, but I mean, we've had people hand deliver bottles and wait while we've judged them because they were really expensive whiskies that I think were about 20 grand or something. So they had like a chaperone so that we could see them, and then they took it back. Not possible for every brand, but if there's some way that you can kind of get us the work, I think that does help. Like we say, it's a packaging competition. It's all about the touch and the feel and the materials and those extra details. But yeah, it's making it sound like it's really difficult now. But I mean, I suppose great work speaks for itself, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. We had someone last year fly from Brazil to give their package for the judging. And then they flew back the next day. It was crazy, man. We were like, come, stay with us for the day. Let's get you some books to look after you. I think the guys are giving such good advice. Like, the only two things I'd add is back to the kind of the written side. In the user guide, there is an example of a really well written entry with bullet points. Mm-hmm. So use that on the user guide. And then I think the last one is a bit of like obvious advice is, look, like John said earlier, we change some of the categories as the industry moves, right? And always when you're introducing a new one, they're the ones that seem to get the smaller number of entries. So this is a little snippet. It's also about like choosing the right category. So as anybody who's thinking about entering, have a look at the new ones because they tend to have less entries, which makes the probability a little bit smaller in case you want to get through. So that was the only thing I'd say as a little bit of a golden nugget. Other than that, what the guys have said is, spot on.
Wish you told me that a week ago when we put our entry in.
Yeah, I know. What's these new categories?
Yeah, I love it. Okay, amazing. Before we bring this to an end, I wanted to give the space to talk about a little bit more specifically the Pentawards pipeline, something I'm hoping to get involved with. Get me? But yeah, more student programs, championing the next generation from unlikely routes. Talk to me and talk to us, should I say, about this a little bit more.
Well, yeah, it just kind of came. We have always got lots of ideas. We always brainstorm loads of ideas, and we're always trying to think about what is the next thing and what can we do. I think it came from the sort of insight of you have to enter and win a Pentaward to become a judge, which is great and keeps the caliber really high and makes sure that when you are winning, when you do win a Pentaward, you know that it's been judged by people who have been there and the quality of the judging is really high. And obviously, like you say, we've done a really great job in diversifying that global pool. But then it kind of struck us, well, wait a minute, not all agencies can afford to, and obviously I keep thinking of my Scottish roots. Not everybody can afford to enter or maybe wants to, or they've got great work, but the company can't, it's not the company's priority. So we chatted to Adam about this idea of a pipeline, which was not necessarily just students. Students is one part of it, but it's basically the pipeline into what's next, like who are the next people when we're dead and gone, who are the next people that are going to be in the room doing the judging, and how can we try and open as many doors as we can. So one of the first things that we wanted to do, it actually probably started with Vital Hardware, didn't it, Adam, where Vital Hardware are an amazing sort of company that I've worked with before that give sort of refurbished Macs to people who really need them. So you can have an opportunity and you can have talent, but if you don't have the gear to do the work on, you're at a disadvantage. So again, Adam and the guys jumped on that, and we did a bit of a partnership with them where we asked people when they were sending their entries in to send any old Macs lying about, and we would donate them to Vital Hardware and they would get into the hands of the people that really needed them. So that was almost like our baby step, wasn't it? And then we had this idea of, me and John usually judge the student competition, and not I think there's a short list done by other judges, but me and John usually are the ones who judge that. And we just thought, wouldn't it be brilliant to actually create jurors who maybe wouldn't have access and maybe haven't won a Pentaward before, but they're people within our network that we really respect, we really value their opinions, and we kind of wanted to open the door and get them in the judging room with us. And that is exactly what we did. John, I don't know if you want to carry on from there.
I remember it totally different because I think 2 years ago at a gala, after celebrating and a couple of drinks, I think Chloe came up to me and was like, John, we could do more. We need to do more. You're doing great stuff. I'm doing great stuff. Let's make it happen at the Pentawards. That's how I remember it. One of Chloe's provocative nights as we were out partying on the dance floor at the Pentawards gala. But yeah, everything what Chloe said was exactly right. And it's about giving those opportunities. It wasn't a hard sell, to be honest. I think Adam was a part of those early conversations. He knew what we were doing, and he wanted to be like, how can Pentawars be a part of this? Kind of like, how do we have more organizations giving more opportunities for people who come from our environments? And that was the base of it. We just want to, we talked about diversity. It comes from female, Black and brown creatives as well, but it's also the economic diversity as well. So we want to give those people who maybe can't afford, especially in the US, get into universities. It's just like the fees are astonishing. But it's the same in the UK. How can we inspire them, give them a little bit of a behind the scenes example, introduce them into rooms. This year we're talking about at the gala having a pipeline table. Again, a little bit of a secret coming out here. Again, just to expose them to people and dialing up a little bit of pressure on the agencies that are in the room. It's like, hey, if it's not autopilot and you're not thinking about giving back, we're gonna have a word in your ear and utilize Pentawards as a platform to say, hey, we should be doing more and we should be giving back. We've got this great thing we've started. We've had our first year, which is super successful. The students got themselves featured on the Pentawards, all of the social platforms and our social platforms as well. We're going to invite them back. It's not about just kind of this one moment with these young people. We're going to invite them back. We kind of learn it from Adam. It's like, all right, how do we invite them back for another year and give them another round of opportunity, but also add to it as well, bring another round of creatives and giving them an opportunity where opportunities are not so accessible for them. So yeah, I think it's growing each year. We almost have to sometimes like, all right, let's slow down a little bit. There's only so much we can do, but we have really fruitful, inspiring conversations outside of the Pentawards. It'd be like, how can we do more? How can we shift this? How can we shape it? And each time we have those conversations, we just feel this energy and this thing growing. So yeah, we're going to continue to create something amazing this year, but we know we're going to grow it next year. And I think each year, Shep, you've already put your hand up, so you're involved. Yeah. You're listed in the list now.
That's the thing. We need people's help. I think me and John spent quite a lot of time in the gala last year in Amsterdam, just working the room, just asking people. So obviously we launched Pipeline. So we had Jake, Arlo, Shola, Harriet, and Alania. Last year, who was the 5 of all different sort of skills and years experience. Jake's got about 10 years experience. Arlo's got about 7. Shola's fresh out of shift. Harriet was
fresh out, just graduated.
Both just fresh out of university, but equally all of them brought something completely different to the table. And I think we wanted to make sure that it was experienced voices, and again, 2 of them were through shift. Arlo I met years and years and years ago, doing great stuff within the queer and trans community, and wanted to give them a platform as well. When we were speaking to all these guys, I remember vividly chatting to Shola and asking him to be involved, and he was just like, blown away with this sort of opportunity. And again, me and John were like, we need to make sure that they get a page on the Instagram, just one page with them, their faces, their names, their work, so that goes out globally to everybody in the Pentawards sort of group, to just give them a little bit of, like you say, the rooms that we're in, we wanted to kind of shine that and help those guys. And again, a few of them are freelance as well. So it's not just people who are wanting to get a job, they're freelancers. They are looking for, clients. So if we can do anything to kind of help them and anybody else, we've got a few new people hopefully joining this year. And I suppose the thing that we were sort of in the gala, we were asking a lot of the agencies, have you got any placements? Have you got a week? Have you got 2 weeks that you can just donate to us, that we can give to the people who enter the competition? Obviously, a lot of the competitions are the student competition. There's amazing talent coming through and you don't have to be a student at uni. You can just be, I think it's up to a certain age, or I need to refresh myself on the rules, but basically, how can we almost make those connections? We've got all these amazing agencies, global agencies, in a room at the same time. And how can we, with Pentaward's pipeline, start to connect those dots a little bit? And if you've entered and got gold or got silver, we still need to work out the logistics of it all. Could we almost be a bit of a matchmaking, between agency and winner of the student competition? And again, John and I've said to Adam and the team, like, more than happy to give up my own time to do this. Like, if it needs, someone with a spreadsheet to sit and kind of match these people up from location or skill set, like, we're so up for doing that. We just need people to get in touch with us, either us or LinkedIn or Pentawards, and just kind of pledge a bit of time so that we could then start to make these connections. That would be amazing if we could start to not just give them a platform, but start to make those connections. Mm-hmm. It's really, really hard for young people at the minute to break into the industry. Harder now, I think, than ever. I think a lot of agencies are sort of battening down a little bit. And if we can give them a little bit of a taster, a couple of weeks, however much anybody can kind of afford to give, that would be the next massive big kind of chunk within the pipeline. And like John says, we've got maybe too big ambitions for what we where we want to go with it, but like, aim high, right?
Yeah, the guys are incredible in terms of their ideas, their work ethic, their pushing this forward. They're really hot on us to make it as best as we could. And I said to Chloe and John, look, here's the keys, drive the car, whatever you need from us, we're going to make it happen. And I think that's a really good point, actually. When we originally started talking about this, it was trying to come up with this massive thing or pledge, or I think we were talking about marching outside 10 Downing Street to get more funding for creators in the UK, and like trying to go to a different level. But I think what we've managed to do now is this 1%, it's getting 1% better every day. We're keeping the conversation very open, and it's also just looking at all what we've got in our business at the moment in terms of the festival or the gala or the competition. Like, how can we offer it out to more people and to make more people welcome into the community? And we're doing stuff with brands where they're doing brand briefs, and students or people that are on education can enter for free, or like John said, getting them to the gala ceremony, coming to celebrate with all these amazing other creative brains in one room at one time. Also, you get to see John and Chloe on the dance floor. They've got moves. You wouldn't even. It's crazy. So even just getting to come into a room with all these top brands and agencies and going, do you know what? They're real people. They can celebrate. They can get down, and we can have a chat at the bar with a beer or a non-alcoholic beer, because a lot of the younger ones now are not drinking. It's just all love. It's all open, and we are going to look back in another 20 years and see how much more we've done for everybody coming through in the industry, and it's going to be down to these guys that are starting that.
And I will add, you might even get a little sample of Adam MCing, like we got.
Come on, I was going to bring that up. I was going to finish with that. That's he's MCing us out, isn't he? Listen, that was sick, and again, for me, who's been in the industry now for so long, and to hear it from this kind of top-down perspective is great. And hopefully for the listeners, they got a few tips and tricks to kind of get up there and win some of these awards. But I think bottom line is the work needs to be great. You know what I mean? Regardless, and the work needs to be great. Right, amazing. So, award season, run it up. There is an extension, a 2-week extension, right, after the 27th. Am I correct, Adam?
You are correct. It's going to be running until the 10th of April. So you can still get your entries in. You can still got time if you get it on the system. You'll have time to edit it and make it all shiny and perfect.
Now you know what it takes and why it matters. Again, echoing what the gang have said, get your entries in. And most importantly, make Mumsy proud. Get me. Big love. Like, share and subscribe. Got some more bangers coming. Thank you to the gang for joining me today. And see you at the gala. Something like that.
Thanks.
Love you.
See you in the dance floor.